If you are easily offended, please leave and don't come back. The views, opinions, and statements from this podcast are by no one. I repeat, by no one. They are not real, and everything is completely made up. This is for entertainment purposes only. The people in this podcast are not doctors, lawyers, or health professionals. They barely graduated high school. It's not that serious. Enjoy the show and have a nice day. Welcome to another episode of Vernon's podcast, brought to you by me, Vernon Smith. Today, I have a special guest. She is very vocal and important part of our indigenous community of Vestrico. She's a Tlicho woman. Do you wanna introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Therese Naskan from Tlicho.
Yeah, Terry. You're a counselor, hey?
I'm a counselor, mental health, and a lot of things.
Okay, so I think that maybe we should start first by maybe your story, like from maybe when you were a kid, your upbringing.
Start now?
Yeah.
Okay, my name's Therese Naskan. I was born and raised in Tlicho. Former community name used to be Fort Ray. I have a mom and dad back then with 7 siblings. My dad back then worked as medical interpreter for many years for our community. My mom too. So up until I was about 12, after that, because of the school, and I was sent to residential school. Even my dad was a residential school survivor, and it was hard for him to send me to residential school when I was young. But he believed in my education, because we can only go to up grade 8 at that time. Dad said that I was old enough to go, and he kind of smiled, and he said, "You're ready, you're ready." And as he was very fortunate, he wasn't ready for residential school life, which was very harsh. A lot of abuse was happening back then, which I didn't know about till was later years. The impact that it has on him and the family back then.
So
It was.
sorry, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was harsh life in a way, a lot of way. But I had a lot of good education in both worlds with at home back then, our culture, our language, and then my dad way of doing a lot of educational. But back then, our people were very loving people back then, and our way of life was so strong, very powerful. A lot of elders were alive. They were our teachers, and we could never go wrong. We can't do something bad at home. I know I can't do swearing or something at home. If we do that in community, we just got stopped by all the elders. All the elders were grandfathers, yeah, grandmothers. Oh my God, you can't get away with things back then. But over the years, during that time, prior to going to residential school, I was there was a lot of abuse was going on that time, but a lot of our young girl my age were scared to open up about a lot of things. Until also was a childhood sexual abuse survivor. For many years, I struggled with it. I couldn't cope with other things, so I had to turn to addiction. Yeah. Many years. On top of that, when I went to residential school, I seen stuff that wasn't right done to some girls, by former priests or whatever back then.
Like you witnessed it with your own eyes?
Yeah, I did.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I seen that. And when one thing is it really impact your life, and because you already been abused, and then you see things happen. It's like we're all in this and we feel helpless. We don't know how to work with it. Everybody talk, even though I seen it. I talked to that girl, and she said, don't tell anybody anymore. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to say nothing about it.
Because like the trauma was
Too much.
Yeah.
And back then we don't know. We have no counselor, not like today. So it was hard all around, and to be exposed to something like that at a very young age, it really impacts your life, right, to adulthood or whatever. And as things went, but I focused on my education and all that. Eventually, at the age of when finally, 1969, I was really. There's no way. A lot of things surfaced, a lot of triggers, and I don't know how to work with this. So I couldn't wait till school was over. Out we go with the freedom. I didn't want to go home,
Yeah.
right? And I got a job then, but then I really had the boost.
Sorry. When you said school, did you mean residential school?
Yeah, once we're finished with that, the last one was at the Tlicho Hall, 1969. By then,
So wait. What time? I mean, like, at what age do you go, and then what age do you finish?
with the residential
Yeah.
school, with the earlier years, they have to stay there year round.
Yeah.
And I think it's 1964 or 65. We came back first time in history. We're allowed to go home for Christmas.
Oh, but do you know how old you were?
I was about 15.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
when you left residential school?
No, I didn't leave till I was 17.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you went for 2 years.
Yeah, extra 2 years here in Yelney.
Okay, so
But no, for residential school was there from 12 to was 17.
oh, wow.
Yeah. Mhm.
So 12 to 17, 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was lucky. I didn't go there till I was old, but the other ones been there very young, eh?
Yeah,
Like 5 years old.
I had heard that the authorities, like the RCMP and the social workers and stuff, they would go into the communities and the camps and stuff, and then they would take the kids, even if their parents didn't want them to go to school. And that's why, like, a lot of families, they fled and they stayed in the bush and the cabins and stuff because they're trying to get away from social services and the police. So because they didn't want their kids taken away from them. Is that true?
That's true because back then, people, I didn't know why people were in the bush. They don't come back till special days, and I did ask my dad later. I said, what happened? Like, how come people don't come back and there's school just for us and all that? He said, when there was a lot of people, but it was back then, it was lots. And when Indian Nation came to community, they asked people, like, all the age of 5, your kids have to go to school. If you don't go, you're going to go to jail. That kind of threat, family really treasures the family. They don't want, so they took off in the bush.
Yeah.
And even then, there's some our group of family, I was stuck together, but the priests and I'm soon with Indian agencies, they know that our people are very, really Christians.
Yeah.
So they brought the priest with them to bring the kids out in the places out on the camp, stuff like that.
Yeah.
They even went there by plane.
Oh, like to kind of, I guess, lure them out of the camps?
Yeah. But also, so that if the priest spoke to them, the kids have to go to school, then the people will listen. Rather than the RCMP and all that. So there was a lot of things going on.
So they were using religion to, like, trick everybody into going to residential school?
In a way, yeah, but our people are really believing, they're really Christian, so they listen to the priest.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Catholic. It wasn't
yeah,
Catholic.
Yeah, it was Catholic.
Oh, Catholic. Not Christian Catholic.
No, not the kind. No, they're just regular RC Catholic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all the residential schools, that was run by the Catholic Church, eh?
No, not really, because they were part of it in a way, but they were encourage our people to send their kids to residential school with a company with either RCMP or Indian agency back then.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Uh,
So it was all that was happening, and my dad said at that time, him too, he ended up in a residential school at the age of 5, never went out till he was 15. By then, flu epidemic took a lot of our people life all over.
wait, what was this epidemic?
I can't remember what year it was, but my dad was 5 years old when both the parents were
Oh, so
died.
like this is in the early 1900s? Like, I mean,
Yeah, maybe
like
20s,
1920?
probably around there. Yeah. I think
wonder-
dad was born about 35, 30, around there, 1930. I don't know.
Oh,
Don't know
okay.
exact, but she was very young, was taken. But according to some elders, later on, when I did work with a lot of elders back then, they were still alive, and a lot of them, they talk about residential school. And it was really very emotional for a lot of them, a lot of anguish.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple of them, from their experience, they were in outpost camp. Plane came and they just gathered the kids, and the parents are crying. But they took all 5 years and up. One of the parent took that little one, two of them, and she told them to hide in the bush. They were there, and until they left, he said, and then the two were in a bush hiding till they said, "Don't come back until the plane leave. You hear the plane flying, then you come back." So they had almost like they said that all that day, the next day, they overnight in the bush until everybody left, and then when they came, there was just only two of them that were there. The rest are all gathered, and he said that's the first time. She told me, "Terry, that was a terrible time." He said, "I said, why?" "First time you don't hear kids giggling, laughter. It was the quiet time of my life. The camp was just quiet, no noise." He said,
That's like so sad. So
yeah, all the children were taken, and she said, "It's like everybody died." That's how they felt. So our parents, our grandparents were really how is it? They're devastated with how the residential schools really impact our life.
it's, if you really think about it too, it like impacted a whole generation. Like right
Yeah.
afterwards too as well.
Yeah,
Because even now you still feel it. There's like a lot of people who, like even say with people who are in my age, like millennials, like a lot of like the generations before us, they didn't like really like teach us cultures and traditions and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of residential school, because they were kind of taught that that was shameful and you can't teach your culture, and so they kind of just like didn't show
Yeah.
us. So that's why kind of a lot of us, we don't even know how to speak Tlicho.
Yeah, because of that, due to a lot of damage done by residential school, it impact our life, emotionally, mentally, physically, whatever. But most of all, because we're Dene, we have our own traditional way of life and language that was taken away by residential school. But all elders still speak English back then.
Yeah.
But they find like eventually after that was all done, when residential school, we start talking about residential school, they find out, I work with them with Under Health Canada back then, and to provide support to all those people that's going through the hearing that time. By then, I knew I was counselor for many years, and I just told her, anything that traumatized your life, I said, it stays with you. It's so well hidden, but I said, eventually you look around, like your children's children, the next generation, it has a big generational impact on families.
Yeah.
And that's still ongoing. And one of the things I see how we were taught, because we were never taught to be a parent, right?
Because our parents were like addicted to substances or alcohol, because of the trauma that they had to go through. So that's why they couldn't be around and stuff. Or
Yeah.
even if they were sober too, you kind of like a dry drunk, right? You're like not really
it's not so much a right drunk and all that, because as a parent, well, me, I come from a residential school survivor.
Yeah.
All that the routines in the regulations in residential school was so embedded in us. We were never taught how to be. Our parents too were survivors, so they follow all that regulations, the things that they know to help us survive, whatever. But a real true parenting skill was never taught by them. It passed on to us, plus through residential school. So when we were on own and getting married and we have our own kids, we treat our kids as they were in the residential school. Right?
Oh yeah, because that's all you know.
Yeah, all the routines,
Yeah.
all the rules and regulations, we put that on our kids.
Yeah.
And you know how. I mean, like, you're so into it that, like, one example I'll give you, when I have my own home, whatever we did in residential school, that's how my kids were brought up. Time to get up, time frame, when to eat, when to go to bed, when to do homework. It's just like residential. And I didn't get on until even dressing clothes and play clothes. Oh, my God. It was it's a behavior that was taught to you, and being trying to be a parent.
Yeah.
And we were never taught that. So then it was taught by our parents, so we think it's normality way of being in parenthood.
Yeah.
And it didn't work.
So like they weren't dry drunks, but they just didn't know how to do parenting, so that's just only what they knew. So
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, like, maybe just like to some of us, it's felt like they're always getting mad and
Yeah.
like they're being really like
unlove and all that.
Yeah.
And a lot of it, and it's not only that, but to deal with your emotions, your mental part of you, it was stopped. So how you feel, how you're doing, how you should cry, and all. A lot of us are. We experience a lot of rigidity towards our family members and our own immediate family, where there's affection showing was none. And then how does that feel? Young people like you feel our parents don't love us? They
Yeah.
never tell us we love you. How can you when you were not taught?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is why it's impacting our families, right?
Yeah.
And for me to go through healing, I went to extreme to get help. And by then my kids are all grown, but I talked to them, and it took a long time to be a real family where we talk about ourselves, our emotionals, our mental way of doing things. A lot of need to be changes, and I see my oldest still do things like my oldest son.
Oh yeah.
He still do things like residential school where kids have to go to bed a certain time.
Oh, yeah.
All those, even cleaning up. And I just, it comes to my house, you're going to go run around and trying to clean. I said, sit down. See, you come here visit, just leave it. But no, it's so embedded in you. You as a survivor have to go through a lot of healing to be you again.
Yeah.
It is hard.
Yeah.
And then once you do your healing, you have to work with your family, and that takes years. It took me a long time. So being abused that way, I really feel for my people.
Yeah.
Because of that, I was a former educator back then. I was a teacher. I see a lot of addiction was happening. I knew something was going on, and I
When
think,
you say abused,
yeah,
what do you mean by that?
a lot of childhood sexual abuse by in residential school. Not only that, because our
By like
parents,
the people who run it,
yeah,
like the priests,
the priests, the nuns, the brothers, or whoever works there.
the nuns too.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yes, that was happening, and
Was
as-
is it just like openly? Like
not openly, but in the evening when we try to go to bed and all that, we can see some of them Another nun will come in at night, and then they go to that sister's room. I don't know what was going on there, and leaves or something like that. But in the middle of the night, there'll be priests coming into the woman's residence. Sometimes they pull, they get kids to go out, and there was a lot of fear back then. They cry, they whimper.
Oh my God.
So it was. I don't have to. It was really because of that. You're exposed to a lot of fear, a lot of things that you're not used to. It's good. It impact you. It traumatizes you, and you have to live that. And yet you have your own family. You have to act like you're normal. Eventually, that's going to erupt, and that's when they turn to a lot of alcohol. A lot of back then we didn't have drugs to depend on, but a lot of prescription drugs.
Yeah.
A lot of us were using that just to cope.
Like antidepressants and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the impact that it's had on our people, it's just, I can't even, like sometimes I feel like, well, I can't like personally like just, it helps like me like understand now, like growing up, because I sometimes I'd be like, oh, like why are they so strict? Why are they always getting mad? But then that's what they know, right?
Yeah, that's normality, because that's how we learn.
Yeah.
And eventually, as we got older, some of our parents will advise us,
And then back to that residential school, all that abuse and stuff, was that like, did you like ever like try to fight back or?
The ones that like me, I'm very. Back then, I was brought up with my dad really taught me a lot of ways of doing coping stuff back then before I went to residential school.
Yeah.
I was very assertive. I was very vocal about my what I can express myself vocally, right?
Yeah.
And because of that, I got punished lots. But towards the end, like I really, how would I say it? I knew it was wrong the way they do things. I know I'm comfortable with my mom back home, my dad, how they raised me.
Yeah.
Although it may be very residential model way of parenting, but they were very kind. They would allow me to speak my opinions and all that. But when I was in residential school, it was not, and we're restricted from using our language. So I fought back really hard back then, and I got punished. And some of the girls would come to me and advocate for them, do this, tell them this, that, I would do it, and I get punished.
Like when they punished you, what did they do?
Well, back then, I guess the punishment was less, but I wasn't allowed to go to the dance. I wasn't allowed to go to once a week. We're allowed to. By then, once a week, we can go shopping if we have money. We go into town. All that, they take that away from me.
Would they hit you?
One nun tried to, but I push her, And because I used to do a lot of traditional back home, we had no running water and stuff like work with dog team, and I was a runner, right? If some physical fit, I outrun them. I run around the residence.
Yeah, God.
And then,
don't try me, lady.
Yeah, and then when they restrict us from language, right?
Yeah.
And we're so strong in our language, we get the sister get mad at us and all that, but we continue, right?
Yeah.
I get caught so many times. I get punished, and I still use my language. And then one time, my friends back then, we got people from Snowdraft, all over, from Fort Simpson, all around surrounding.
So it's like indigenous children from all over Canada?
Yeah, pretty well. And they have a lot of multi-language there, right?
Yeah.
So one time, a friend of mine was, I'm more comfortable with the South Slavey. They're more similar than us. So he was like a friend of mine. We're just talking away in our language, and I told him to say this and that, and we're just laughing. We're sitting in a coat room because this way where we can talk our language.
Yeah.
And then we just laughing. We got giggled too much, so sister found us, and he said, said, Madam Teresa, and he said, you go upstairs. And we told you many times not to speak your language. And I look at sister, I said, sister, I'm not speaking my language. I'm speaking her language. Oh my, that sister just red in the face. She was so mad. She didn't know what to do with me.
So you're just getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Just because you were like living your life and living who you are.
Yeah.
Like your culture and your language. And so like the whole, I guess like from my understanding, they were trying to assimilate us into the, I guess, like European population, right?
Way of life, yeah.
Yeah, they wanted us to be like them.
Yeah.
And they wanted to get rid of our culture.
Our culture, way of life, our language, and even a lot of our own spiritual ceremony stuff was all pretty well taken and not to practice at home, everything. So it was, it in a lot of ways, like when I look back on things, it really impact a lot of our people, our elders. It really disrupt our way of life for a long time. But yet our elders, the one that never went to residential school, even the late chief when she made that school in Etzel.
Chief Jimmy Bruno?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said his sister was taken to residential school. I don't know what happened there, but because of that, how the family was impacted by residential schools, and none of my people from here on in, we're going to have a school in the community. We're not sending our school to outside anymore. They can be educating in our community and they still be with the family. And he fought long and hard, and they were the first one to get that school in school.
Yeah, that's where I went to school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in that, he made sure that down the road, generations already, a lot of our people lost our language and culture.
Yeah.
He wants to be part of a component for education and community.
Yeah.
And that would, he said that need to be, we need to get back to our way, our rooted way of life, our culture. Really believe in that.
So
and for a long time, so me coming from residential school, but I have exposed to already to our culture, way of life. It was very confusing when coming back, right? Our own people, first time me being away residential school, come back. I used to talk to all these elders, run around, visit them, and when I did, you should see that the coldness. When I ran in, one of my elder that I love her stories. She kind of back out.
Why?
I don't know, because like for me, your own people find there's a big change. There's a big change when you're impacted by your residential school. And I felt hurt. And then a lot of our elder were make back us that were no longer Tlicho, were white people, many white people, like small people, white people. And I said, what does that mean? It hurt. Why are our elders talking that way? They never used to talk that. Finally, I did talk to one of the priests back then. Father Amaru is really good. He spoke our language. He was part of our culture, way of life. I talked to him and I feel so sad. Why are they like that? They've seen changes in you from residential school. That's why our elders are kind of make the gap there.
Yeah.
And I feel the coldness. I felt really bad. But it made me to a point where when you confront with that, identity issues become very vivid. You neither don't belong to this other cultural way of life. Other one is our way of cultural way of life. You're lost. You have tendency to slide down. There's a crevice that we fall in. So we see today a lot of people, former residential school, they find themselves like the loss of identity. They don't know which world they belong to.
Yeah,
it's
they don't fit in.
They can't fit in anywhere.
Yeah.
And if I felt that way for many years, but eventually my dad, by the time I come back, I finished school, I didn't want to go home. I felt that way, so I left. I went back to Yale and I got a job and started working there. By then, I got married and I stayed away. And then, like after that, also, my husband was a residential school survivor. By then, we had 3 kids with addiction, with family violence. Eventually, after 12 years, can't make it work. By then, I want a better life, right?
Yeah.
And it was a big decision I have to make.
To get sober?
To stay sober, I'm going to go for treatment also for our separation from our relationship.
Yeah.
It was very volatile, and I didn't want my kids to be exposed to family violence anymore. It's not a way of life.
Oh, you were a victim of domestic violence?
Yeah. So, how
Did you just? I'm sorry. I know like there's like a lot of women too who are in that too as well. Like even today. Is there like because I know like a lot of people are just say things like, oh, why don't you just leave? Why don't you just run away? Like leave him.
Yeah.
Is there like a reason why they don't?
I think pretty well because I over the years of working with a lot of people with a lot of childhood residential school stuff, and plus like that family violence was so high back in the 60s and 70s. You literally see people fighting in the street, and it was just normality. People just laugh it off. But eventually, when I start getting into 1994, I start getting into. By then, I was sober. I've been to residential school. I did a lot of healing in residential school stuff. And I realized with that things that I experienced with childhood abuse, also from home, hometown, and all this come together. I realized I see how it impact all the individual people. And the violent part. So eventually, when I got my training through down south for being a counselor, also mental health worker, working with people, did a lot of access of interviews and working with people where we're going to go with it and develop program for the community to use. I find that majority of us all that came from residential school were so exposed to a lot of violence, a lot of stuff. So eventually, I think coming from very few that still carry on, so those generations of girls or whoever live in a volatile home where there's a lot of violence, there's domestic violence that's going on. These people, a lot of them, it's normality for them. So it's hard for them to up and leave, right?
Yeah,
we give them a lot of support and all that, but
they think it's like normal, and it's just just the way it is, eh?
yeah. So majority of us, a lot of us that have been married in the past, a lot of us, once we begin our healing and all that, we know the marriage can't be safe. We have to leave. And back then, when I first had to separate from my husband, I got a lot of elders were getting mad at me. And they said, how can you separate from your husband? I got a lot of backlash from my community back then.
Oh,
because they believe that as a marriage vow, and whether you're,
they have to like stay together forever.
Yeah.
No matter what.
No matter what. And I couldn't, because I see a lot of damage was happening in my home. They didn't behind closed doors, or when I get beat up, it's always after midnight, people sleeping. No there, I would go home. I'm scared. My mom did, they were very strict with me.
Yeah.
So it was hard, and we got stuck in all these issues that we're struggling with today.
And
so a lot today we look at it, like I've been a residential school survivor. I had childhood sexual abuse back home, with gang rape or whatever, and all that was happening. So I had to deal with a lot of family violence, and also my own personal loss and grief. there were a lot of things happen, and because of that, when you don't deal with it, um, you don't do any healing. That these it's going to impact your life, and then you use a lot of addiction to cope with all the mental, emotional hurt and pain that you have to deal, and with all the shame that things that happen to you, it becomes a block from you from achieving or accomplish things in your life. Even though you're very highly intelligent, you can you can be anything you want, right? You get to that point, you can be there, but down in you, if you never dealt with a lot of these issues that conflicting with your life, don't know how to cope with it, you turn to addiction. So even though we do good, I can be I'll be 20 years sober. If there's some things that I never dealt with, it's going to impact my life, and it's just easy to pick up that booze again.
Yeah.
So it's really today. I'm 74. I got how many? 23 grandchildren, 3 great grandchildren, whatever. And
they're busy.
I enjoy life.
Yeah.
I really feel for my people back there, and I could never let people down, insist they want to talk to me. I retired 2010.
Yeah.
Supposed to, but I'm still doing a lot of work. I help program in the community, developing program and wellness for our people.
Thank you for all your work.
Yeah, and it's nonstop.
Yeah.
And majority of us all that have been survivors, residential school survivors, we're all coming together. We all got our training, so we help who we can.
Yeah.
But at times, when a lot of tragedies stocks get hit our community, it's very hard. It hurts everybody, and like we love each other. We were brought up as cultural people. We really love our people, and when one is lost in community, it really impacts everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we didn't care, it wouldn't bother us. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like in a city, somebody died, yeah. But it's not like that in community.
No, because
a community in the north is so bound by family members.
Even if we are not like that close to them or we don't really know them, you still feel it in the community because like your friends or your friends' friends, there's always like some kind of connection there. And wanted to say too, so how long have you been sober now?
Holy man, I don't know. I think I sober up when I was 38.
38?
Yeah, I'm 74.
So 41, you're 41, I think?
Something like that, yeah. Maybe less. I relapsed at one time when I lost my beautiful cousin. I just drank that one day, but I didn't want to do it. By then I was so overwhelmed with a lot of things. I didn't take care of myself, right?
Yeah.
So I drank. The next day, I thought about what happened, right?
Yeah.
And I realized I had to go back. I talked to us. We all support each other. So a lot of us support each other. I said I was too tired. And then big loss, and I forgot to look after myself, right?
Yeah.
So that one time, even then, it really, I didn't feel guilty about it, but I said, what happened for me to go there? But of course, I have to go back and do a lot of refresh stuff with me to where I didn't, and that one part of my life that I never didn't quite complete did enough healing. So I have to do some more healing work in that area.
Yeah.
It's easier when you go that way to go back up and go again.
Yeah.
If you just let it go, I'm going to slide down and go back to drinking.
So
a matter of it. I would advise people, if you have a lot of issues that's unresolved, make it your priority to do healing in it. So no matter 30, 40 years of sobriety, that one day you forgot to look after yourself, you're just going to pick the drink. And
Yeah.
then you stay with it. But if you're going, it happened right away, seek help. Find out with good counselor, where's one things that I've got to deal with
Yeah.
for me to slide down that fast, you know?
Yeah, I think with a lot of us too, we forget to like take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of us are maybe just chasing money, or maybe we go to the gym and we think that we're doing good enough. That's good enough. Or even just getting sober, that we think that's like good enough. I mean, those are all great things, but there's more work to be done. Like you have to work on your mind, like
Yeah.
your thoughts and all the past trauma, everything you've been through, everything has to be addressed. You can't just let it, it's not going to go away until you deal with it.
Yeah.
And then even after you deal with it, it's still going to come back,
Yeah.
like later on and stuff, because it's going to be like a whole, it's like a life battle, right?
But it's one of the things at my age, I look at it and we fail to listen to our body messages.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you're in a dangerous ground, right? And hot spot. And you
Like
kind of
you-
ignore, I can deal with it, but at times you can't.
Yeah, like
You
your
know?
gut feeling, like your,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
just the feeling, the energy in the room, right?
Yeah.
Like when you're feeling like just bad, like bad
Yeah,
vibes.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
And then your mind start to wander to all kind of things. Oh my God, don't fall for it. you
Yeah,
know?
I think that with me too, with like I've been sober now for a little, yesterday was 12 weeks. Yeah. And even like now too, like even when like somebody like text messaged me or trying to like talk to me and stuff, sometimes I get like, oh, like I get the a feeling of, oh, like I feel like, what is that feeling? Like I feel like maybe like I want a drink or something.
Yeah.
So that's why I just kind of remove myself in a situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but kindly though, always. And it's just like you have to kind of in your sobriety and when you're in recovery, you have to be a little bit selfish with it, huh?
Yeah,
Because
the
like
beginning, the first crucial time is the first 2 years of sobriety. Then, you know, do what you can, but if you do too extremes, it's going to knock it down.
because you get isolated and stuff.
Yeah, don't isolate yourself. Be selfish
Yeah.
in a way that you look after yourself.
Yeah.
Priority, number one priority, look after you, emotional part of you, the mental, the physical part of you, spiritual part of you.
Yeah, and sometimes
And do
that's
a lot of healing in that area, you know, so you have a balance in your well-being.
yeah.
That's the first 2 years we fail to follow through.
Yeah.
So most of us we were up for, relapse.
Yeah.
So
A journal. When they say journal, it's true, huh?
Yeah,
Like you
uh-huh.
writing a journal, I write in mine too. It helps so much.
yeah,
And just like meditating too, even if for like 5
meditation,
minutes.
a lot of it. Yeah,
Yeah, and I find like the gym too helps a lot too. Because sometimes when I get like a little like, I have like anxiety and stuff. Like I'm just antsy for no reason. Maybe I drink too much coffee. I don't know. But and then I just go to the gym and then I feel completely fine after that.
yeah.
Just relaxed.
So a lot of us I really truly believe that our elders towards the end, when they see all the changes in our community, that time the elders said, bring the people back to their land.
Yeah.
The land heals. And at that time, I don't understand concept yet. And I've been with the elders. Finally, I got into elders. I work with them. And with whatever that's going to work, we brought in some people, community, away from the community. We do a lot of healing work. And we're just beginning. But with the assistance of all the elders back then, they don't speak the English, but we develop program on their perspective. Using that perspective, we have land healing program, and it works. It works for some,
Yeah.
but other people have to go more than once.
Yeah.
So I really encourage,
Everybody-
we can go to treatment center
Yeah.
down south for
Yeah.
all these stuff, but on a land program, you're there. It's our natural.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like that's our tradition, eh?
Yeah, our way of, so you feel good physically, even day one and all that. You do things, and we do a lot of healing work there, based on all traditional stuff. And those, I encourage people. Some people that have been there, they've been sober, they really support the people when they go there. But we're focusing on not only that, because of that language loss and our cultural way of life through So residential school, a lot of us will have to go back and return to the land. And that's where it is because it energizes you. Not only that, the healing is so natural. That's our natural way of life. So it finally going back and we really feel at peace,
Yeah.
By day 10, people going, they don't want to go home, right?
Yeah.
So it's just nice, yeah.
So just like I went to a treatment center too as well.
Yeah.
And there they say that you have to have a higher power. You have to believe in something more powerful than you are. And for a lot of people that's God, and for a lot of other people too, it's nature. Like
Yeah.
nature, just being in touch with Mother Nature. Putting your feet on grass and just sitting down, maybe in the sand or on a rock, and just kind of just thinking about like where you are and where your feet's touching and your body, and listening to the birds and stuff. Just things like that. It just makes you feel in touch with the world, like the earth and stuff. So, and that gives you like a peace of mind too, as well.
So you look at land healing program, and you go back to the land. You use a lot of the language out there. It meets, it's our traditional people like us, our people forefathers. Traditionally, that's their environment, their natural environment of healing. And it meets all four parts of well-being, your emotional, the mentally, all those physically, spiritually. It's all come together when you're out there.
Yeah.
So that's why when you're in there for 3-4 days, you feel good about yourself because you're always doing something emotionally. When out of the blue, you can just cry easily, as if you're in a community, you can't.
Yeah.
So these are really healing. It's very healing, and no wonder that's what our elders are talking about.
And you're away from your
work
phone.
with them, away from home. For the years that I've been after my retirement in 2010, I really focused on land healing program, work with elders, all age group, help our community develop a lot of land healing program, culture healing program. I was assisting with them. So based on that, we really encourage our people to participate in program. It's not like we don't have it. Whenever there's program available, I would like our people to take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's free. It's free.
Yeah, you don't have to pay.
Just go and show up, even if you are tired, hangover, whatever it is. Just go, because like you have to take action. You're not gonna fix anything by just sitting there and complaining about it.
No, because we really try to help as many people we can. And people in this field, they're not judgmental because they've been through lots. They understand.
Everybody, you're always going to find somebody who understands you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And we can read mind, So if people that have been in a long time in sobriety, they wouldn't, if they ask for help or someone to listen to them, they're not going to push them away. They're going to listen because they'll be so happy helping people because mentally we can't understand what the person is thinking
unless they tell you, huh?
Emotionally we don't know. They appear okay, they look all right, but for all we know, inside they're all brittle, they're all breaking.
Yeah. Like with me too, when I was like telling my story and stuff at that rehab center, they like nobody was like shocked or anything. Like, and then when they go up and tell their story, theirs was like way more. They went through so much more than I did, and so it's just like everybody has that level of understanding. Like everybody gets each other in some way. Yeah. So you're never alone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So a lot of us that today, not much left now. Majority of but when I did assessment for our residential school survivors, there were 320 of us from our region that went. Today, maybe under 20 are alive.
Oh, wow.
Losing a lot of my residential school friends are no longer here. And at 74, I just feel, like they're all gone, But at times I feel angry, be normal, a person. But, they're at peace, a lot of them. Same with our elders went through so much. They went through most experience horrified experience they have went through in residential school. But I was glad to be part of their life when residential school thing was come up. I've been with Health Canada. We did support when people going through hearing. For some people, they can't speak our language.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was
Okay.
it was
It was. What was it?
very emotional for a lot of them.
So wait, I want to ask a question about residential school. How do you feel about? I know, like, they said the Pope apologized, was it, or the Queen?
Yeah.
And then they came for like a kind of a tour around Canada and stuff. What do you think about them apologizing?
Well, for me, after hearing a lot of stories from my people, being experienced in that field, I mean, for me, personally, the person that was alive and I really do apologize, yeah, I'll take that. But for someone that did all the wrong, someone apologizing for them,
Yeah.
it doesn't coincide, not by my standard.
Yeah.
So I just said, well, let them do what they want. But I think considering do apologies for people, look how much money they have to spend when that money can be used for healing. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I am very think about a lot of these things, and like the elders said, like if somebody did wrong, the elders always said that person genuinely confronts you and apologize to you. He said, there's money up there for Heavenly Father will forgive them. But if somebody else is doing them, you're just enabling them, and you're making things. It's okay. It's all done with, and forget it. That kind of gesture, and they don't go for that. I really believe that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that doesn't change. Like, why are they going to apologize for somebody else?
No, I don't. And to do that, imagine for somebody like Pope or Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth back then, to apologize for people that did wrong. I think it's not the church that did wrong. It's the people that represent the church that did wrong to people. Those are the ones. You need them. If they're still alive, we want them. I would like them to say the apology.
Yeah. Like
but,
the priests, the nuns, the staff.
Some of them are still alive.
Yeah. And what about, what are your thoughts on all the children that are being found, like, in the ground?
It's devastating, but for me, back then, my dad, when she was in residential school in Resolution, he said, my girl, there's a lot of kids died there, and some of the parents don't want to know their kids are dead until they come back in June. They found the kids are not there, they died. So based on that, you see all this is happening. My dad said it was just horrific. And one of the things, my dad, and because they're orphaned, they were there, they never go home. One residential school he was in, they would stay behind, they would do all that potato farming, whatever, wood for the school. And she said, they were up in the attic with the sisters, they are in residential school. They asked us, it's musty, smelly in there, so they said they got to knock down all the walls and replace the null in there. And she said, my girl, he said, when we were doing that, about 4 or 5 of them, they're knocking down all the walls. That one side of the walls, she said, my girl, when we open up the walls, on a wall and in between the wall, there's no insulation back then, right?
Yeah.
When they did that, she said, my girl, he said, I was so horrified. She said, there's a lot of baby skulls.
Oh my God.
Little arms, little bones, little legs, and all that. It's all small ones.
They hid them in the walls?
So if the girls that were pregnant, the baby, they must have killed it and put it in between the walls. So that's horrifying story my dad told me. And
I've never heard anything like that. I've heard them like burning babies if
Yeah,
they're.
but there was lots. And then he said when she was there, he said there was beautiful nuns there.
Yeah.
And like they're young, they're pretty, they got figures and all that. Even though they use heavy stuff,
Yeah.
eventually she's seen two of those nuns that were beautiful. She said they're really nice, but they never got training. I don't know, but when they did, eventually down the road they're getting fat. And then eventually they were gone. And so the kids asked, where's sister, this, sister, that? He said the sister got sick, so he couldn't be away for a while.
Ah.
And then when they came back later, they were just slim again.
So they were pregnant and then they had kids.
Yeah, and back then, my dad was old enough, but they didn't know about pregnancy and all that. But he said she's seen a lot of that.
Who were the nuns getting pregnant by? The priest?
Priest or whatever, yeah.
Oh, what were the nuns like sleeping with like the little boys too?
Yeah, I heard that was happening too. So that was she was a medical interpreter, but she said these are the things sometimes happen. Down the road when you're ready, Terry, I will tell you my story. And he said if dad is drinking lots, it has nothing to do with you. You do not touch who's really Rick. But allow dad to be dad, because you don't know what's in here, what I seen, what I heard. It comes back so strong. So when I leave community for 1 week, you go 1 week bench and yell and I come back. It was like that all the time, and I didn't know why. Only after dad died, prior to a month before he died, he was healthy and all talked to me. And one morning, I was get up early, have coffee with. That's when she told me all this story. He said, if I'm ready, my girl down the road, I will tell you the story. Because I think back then I wasn't counselor or anything, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're ready to accept whatever happened. You probably won't understand. Not knowing, later on, she told my mom, after dad died, my mom told me, your dad stayed in residential school at the age of 5 to 15, and she was abused by a priest. In not only him, plus all the people that he went to school with, his friends that were abused sexually.
Yeah.
So that's why my dad drank. But he was a very intelligent person. Really, he taught me lots aside from school. So,
Very close with your father?
Yeah, I was very, very close.
With that whole residential school too. Is there like, I know like every time the topic comes up, it's always like bad, and because it's terrible. But I'd say like, do you think that say that kind of made you who you are today? Like, because you've been through all of these tough things and now you're like strong?
Yeah, I guess in a lot of ways, like, have I not did any healing in my life, I would have been with the rest of my family, or died from addiction, disease, like liver or heart problem. But majority of us that drank lots back then all end up with a lot of diabetes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm on diabetes for quite a while, but considering everything, if I didn't do any healing, I would know where I'd be, But today, the healing is it's tough. It's really hard journey, but we stuck with it. I stuck with it with some of my friends that did. It become very a prominent figure in community.
Yeah.
Assisting our people that need help. Because where we've been, majority are struggling silently.
Yeah.
If we see some people struggling today, we're not afraid to confront them to see how they're doing. A lot of our community, majority of us all that are healing, we're all out there helping people. We're exposed to all what happened to us. It's our turn to give it back to community to help them.
Yeah.
if they ask, we will be there for them. We love our people. Our people, great ancestors, they were loving people. We are. We're in a community. We're all brothers and sisters. We've got grandmothers, grandfathers. Even they're gone, we adopt. That was one way of adopting our elders to be our parents. If we lost our parent, we ask a person to be our mother and father. It helped us to go through healing, also accepting the loss and all that. So, for me today, I can't say I'm totally okay. I'm human. I have my weaknesses. I have my strong points. But one of the things, when I'm getting weak, I'm going to reach out. I'm not going to sit on it and get buried with it. And that's what I did. It took me a long time to get out of it.
Yeah.
But today, I am happy to be me, able to laugh again, able to hug, something that I never did. I have to relearn all that from residential school. Today, I have my kids. I'm a single parent for many years. But, whatever life struggle I went through, it wasn't easy. And I shared that with community from day one when I become counselor. I told them I'm not perfect. I'm standing here. I'm going to be working with all of you. But this is what happened to me. This is where I am. Whether you accept it or not, I'm here to help people.
Yes.
And I was the first one to share all the gory stuff that I went through.
Yeah. And I think we all thank you for that.
Yeah.
Because like you sharing your story, and there's gonna be some people who relate to it, or maybe that happened to them too.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it kind of gives them like we can talk about it.
Yeah.
And stuff, and it helps people to heal too.
Begin their healing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so counseling. How long are you planning on doing this? I think we need you. We need you to do this forever.
Oh, that's what I was. I retired 2010. By then it was 17, but it must be going to about 30 years.
Yeah.
30 years plus, whatever. Still ongoing.
Yeah.
More or less, I want to train a lot of my co-workers. Some retire into this, so. I do a lot of facilitating. I develop program in all the 4 region, Tlicho region. So based on that, as our traditional dental cycle, we're a child. When we're a child, we explore. Adolescent, you're a learner, right? Adult, you're a provider. Elder, now I'm elder. I'm teachers of teachers.
Yeah.
So whatever. Elders said, you're well educated in both worlds. He said, don't sit on it. That's not our way of life.
Yeah.
Whatever you learn, you give it back to the community. And I think we followed that model, and I think because of that, we got a lot of respect from our community. Working with them. Yeah.
I know when I told friends and stuff that I was gonna be interviewing you, they were their face lit up. They're like excited because they know how open you are, and they wanted to hear it. Yeah. So thank you. And what are your thoughts too? Like on I know like I saw this like chatter online about people are saying things like, well, the younger generation, they're saying like the older generation, they kind of like make fun of them or like laugh at them when they try to speak Tlicho, I guess because they're pronouncing it wrong, or they're saying things wrong. So
yeah.
And so they feel like they don't want to like learn it because they're getting laughed at and stuff like that.
Culturally, okay, anything new you learn, even from little baby, they start learning. It's a joy. Elders expressing the joy of finally you're speaking, and it's fun. They're not really totally laughing at them to hurt them.
Yeah, they're laughing with you because it's like,
yeah, it's with you.
Oh, yeah.
They're happy. You're doing, and then when you sound different, of course it's funny. I can't just sit there and
Yeah.
But it's not to be mean. That's not their nature. And one of the thing is when it's fun learning your language.
Yeah. So she's saying, don't be sensitive.
Yeah.
Don't be sensitive. Just take the laughs. It's in good nature.
Yeah, it is, and it's our people our traditional people back home. They ever like to used to laugh to joke,
Yeah.
teasing,
Yeah.
all that. We grew up in laughter, sense of humor.
Yeah.
And especially when we come back, we try to speak our language. Some of them used to laugh at us, but because our tone changes,
Yeah.
it sounds different.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that back then. So one time, my dad keep encouragement to make me use a lot of, very large vocabulary in English and all that. And I have to interpret that and teach me, give me one word that week to do it, speak it in our language. 2 or 3 weeks of using that one big word and then do it in English and translate that back to English. It used to give me that. And
I love your English is very good, like very, very great.
Yeah.
I love it because like I know like when you see like a lot of like clips online and stuff, when elders when they speak, it's always like in Tlicho, which is
Yeah.
great. But then there's like some of us who don't understand it, and like maybe like some parts of it, and even when they interpret it too as well, it's just more time and stuff. It's kind of, it's like a whole thing. I really appreciate you being able to like vocalize yourself and like really great English.
So if I see like I'm a facilitator too for a lot of things, and if I see majority of youth in there that don't speak our language, I would speak in English, but I was self-translate what I said in Tlicho. So it's coming from me and you, right there, and then explain how you feel, what are you saying.
Yeah.
So I can always move back and forth.
Yeah.
Right. So
do you have any like advice for like say people like me, like young generation who don't know how to speak it but want to? Like where do we start? How do we like teach ourselves how to speak Tlicho?
Okay, one of the things, if in a community, if there's land healing program, we involve a lot of elders.
Yeah.
They don't speak English.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to work with them. You're going to teach you. They're going to teach you.
Okay.
This is how you do it. And a lot of fixing fish and butchering caribou, all that they learn.
Oh, so it's not just the language, just the whole thing, the whole
thing.
Culture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're there, and so our language used there. But if you're still stuck there, there's people like me working there. We assess you what they meant and all that.
So just throw yourself entirely into the culture and every way of it.
Yeah.
And like just like the hunting and being on the land, and being involved in the programs and working closely with elders and fluent Tlicho speakers, and then eventually you might catch on.
Yeah,
You will catch on.
Now the community, they offer Tlicho language program going on.
Yeah.
And also they offer in, I think, University of Alberta now. So
awesome.
Those that's outside there, I think if you go into Tlicho website, it will show you when the program, usually in July, they offer that in Edmonton.
Oh, I should look into that.
So you can go from ground level to learn to more into to get a degree in there. So it's a really good program. My kids at home, I don't speak English. I speak since they're young. I always talk my language, and even my little ones, but some that don't understand. But it was fun learning with and so my kids, they understand when I speak in Tlicho to them.
Yeah.
They'll respond back in English. But when I put two of them would go on land with my brother-in-law and all that, they speak, now actually 1, 2, 3 of them can speak the language.
Oh, nice.
So it's just not only from home, but basically your parent coming from home, if your both parents are speaking English, it's their own responsibility to teach their language to the kids before they go outward, and they can get it from either school, university, wherever. But also land program is good because it's a raw teaching there, and you pick up faster than you would in school.
Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah.
With everything that's happening in the community with the wildfires and the evacuation, did you, since you're being a counselor, so you obviously like have like some you have like your eyes and ears on the mental health community. Did you see like a change since the wildfires and stuff? Did people become more like start drinking more antsy, or did people need more help or assistance?
Yes, and when it come to a crisis situation like this, there was a lot of problem existence in the hometown, and a lot of us would do escape from through gambling addiction, not to face what's happening at home. Put all the household together in one house. Imagine what it's like. Eh?
A lot of stressed people.
A lot of stress. Not only that, in a lot of ways, the good part, the way I look at yesterday, I talked to this counselor that were there. Sometimes crisis doesn't mean it's always negative.
Oh, it brings people together too.
Yeah, it brings the family together now. Imagine I went to the campsite.
Yeah.
I finally see all the families together, all tents together. Imagine they all eating together. I'm sure they talk together now.
Yeah, it's not all bad, hey?
It's not all bad, not to me. I don't look at negative. I always look at the positive way of doing things, and but maybe they don't realize it because it is stressful with the house laws or whatever, and a lot of people don't like being live in the city and they're not at home in their comfort. Those are that can be fixed.
Yeah. Those are just like temporary things, huh?
Yeah, for it can be worked through, but to have family together, nothing happen. There's no real crisis, no life loss. Able to come together as family in one roof,
Yeah.
and your friends. Some of them, it is hard, so some will hit addiction, but if they really look back on things, they were glad the family got together. Finally, they're talking to parents, their family are there together.
Yeah.
So
there's good in it. All good
there's
in
a
it too
good
as
in
well.
it, there's a bad in it, but the good in it. Let's focus on a lot of positivity, what's coming out of it.
There's
It
always
also, it gives us acknowledge what's need to be worked through, whether it's a lack of communication, whether it's
like awareness,
awareness of what happened,
acceptance.
Yeah, accepting communication is so important
Yeah.
because first time you encounter this, your child will come up to you, Mom, I ever like this. I don't want to stay here. I hear the little one said that. I want to live here, Mama.
Yeah.
All the parents are there, their uncles, everybody's there. And then that little one said, yeah, what do you like about it? And he said, Mama, he said, I don't have to go a long ways to see Mama. She's just over there in the tent.
Yeah.
How cute. I mean, like, it says something.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Especially with like kids too, like a lot of like younger people. Then this is probably like fun for them in some way because
Yeah.
they get to hang out with all like their friends and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're finally like everybody, the whole community's together.
And that's how it used to be.
Yeah.
Right? It's through crisis and all that community back then. Everybody pulled together. Everybody cooperate and, working together.
Yeah.
So crisis like this, it doesn't have to be negative.
Yeah.
Let's focus on what is positive. What's the outcome? What need to be changed now when you're back home? You know?
Yeah.
It may be because of what happened. The family finally got together. Let's keep this going. So at home, let's get together on Sunday as family. I mean, I've been doing that with my family, so it's nothing new.
Yeah.
But for others, make a knowledge what they miss, and it's coming back.
Yeah, and I think like this too, like was a big eye opener too, because a lot of us too are just really like complacent, and we don't we just think like nothing's gonna happen. But this year just shows all of us that anything can happen,
It can
and
happen.
it affects all of us.
We're vulnerable.
Yeah,
We can't always focus on materialistic stuff.
yeah,
We're talking about, let's focus on the wellness of our family or ourselves. And, materialistic it can be replaceable.
yeah,
And also, like, if it's life lost, then it's there's no replacement.
yeah.
And you're hurt for life,
Yep.
So based on that, be grateful of what you have, what you can accomplish today, this minute, this hour, I mean, this day, if you're strong, right? tomorrow will come. I don't focus so much as before. But the 9 to 5 job, I used to have to worry about weekly plan, next month plan, yearly plan. Well, no, have that. Less stress. I just focus
Day by day.
day by day. And if it's too hard, go by hour, minute by minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, is there anything that you would like to talk about we haven't touched on yet?
Pretty well touched everything. It's just that when we share
Yeah.
things like this, people are readily the one that did a lot of recovery stuff on healing journey. They readily will share this story because to inform the young people that you can live, life without addiction. You can find happiness again, joy, peacefulness. To get back identity that you are who you are, and embrace it because this is the time we have. We don't know what's next hour's going to bring, but be all the love you have for your families, your friends, your elders.
Yeah.
Be grateful for those.
Yes.
Because we don't know what tomorrow.
Yeah.
But be able to be. I think a lot of us are. Like for me, I'm very open-hearted. I love my people. I love my children. My grandkids and any little ones. And our kids, next generation. If it didn't seek help, like our elders said, they're going to go through a lot of hardships, and we don't want our people to hurt anymore. And to do what they can to help themselves. We're there to meet them halfway. We don't remember putting people down. And of course, when we're hurting, we don't resolve a lot of our issues. We become very angry people. Something that your love is not there anymore. We just want a good life for our family. We want them to have a stable life, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, to ensure that our kids, we want them to have fulfillment in life.
Yeah,
that's all we want. We don't want, fancy cars, castles. I don't know, but those are. It's not going to help. Even you have all that, if you don't do healing, you go down.
Yeah, and I think that too. We have to think about our kids, like generations after us.
Yes.
If we need to heal us now so that they live a better life too. And what would you say? What are your thoughts on say the state of the Tlicho region right now with mental health wise?
Mental health wise, it's really
an addiction.
In addiction wise, addiction back then we're dealing with a lot of alcohol. Today we're battling new forms of addiction, which is drugs in the community.
Crack.
Yeah, crack, cocaine. It's devastating. The grandparents are very, very affected by it. And also people like me, we're all hit with that. And, at time, I don't want to be angry about it, but when the death related to some of these things, it hurts. Not only hurts me, it hurts family, communities, all around us. So I wish we're trying to do the best we can. We provide promoting a lot of healthiness in our community. We provide program for them to people to use it. But if you're into heavy duty use in addiction, especially in crack stuff, nothing works. They're not going to hear it, right?
Yeah.
And it's so sad. That's a new battle that all the community pretty well across Canada are dealing with it.
Yeah.
And it's so sad.
It's a new enemy, and they don't know how to fight it yet.
Yeah, they don't. And it's not like with alcohol addiction. At least the treatment, there's some recovery from that. But with crack cocaine, that's good treatment program for that. Takes long process. Then the other with the
Well,
alcohol?
with me, when I went to treatment, it was
Yeah.
for alcohol was the main one, but also with cocaine too. I got treated for both. I was doing NANC and AA and NA, and there's a lot of similarities because
Yeah.
it's all addiction.
Yeah, all addiction. Yeah.
Yeah, and just like the behaviors, like the with that comes along with addiction, of course, like unpredictability and unstable, and just like moody and grumpy, and you can't really be like trustworthy too,
Yeah.
because you people just don't really know what you're gonna do like every day. It's just you're all over the place.
Yeah.
And also your emotions too. So
Yeah.
it's all kind of like really, really, really similar, honestly. And so there's treatment for that too as well.
Yeah.
But I would say too with the crack thing too is, do you have any advice for like anybody who might be hooked on it, or if they might know somebody who's hooked on it, like maybe how to like deal with it, like maybe not try to like control them and push them into treatment, but just kind of like how to deal with them on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, with the young adults now in the community, they're very vulnerable to addiction.
Yeah.
It's so easily access to all these other alcohol or drugs. And I guess one of the things we're dealing with is that we don't want to be, if we're going to work with these, the addiction, who are affected by it, you have to be very compassionate. Not only that, to be able to understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And normally, the way I've been in the field for that long, I said, if you have a lot of unresolved issues, you're going to continue going to use addiction to cope.
Yeah.
And it's like painkillers, right?
Yeah.
And once you start being really understand if the person reachable, try to support them, work with them, and make sure that you have a lot of refer them to people that easily can work with them.
Yeah.
And so if you have a lot of experience, you know how to work and reach out and work with people.
And it's like really important to not like judge them, because that their addiction took over their whole like mindset.
Yeah,
so that's all they care about is getting high.
Yeah.
And they neglect all their like responsibilities.
Yeah.
And whatever it is, it's just something that you can't really, it's like something you can't like physically see and fight. Yeah, it's like in your mind.
Yeah. So it impact your wellness of your well-being addiction when you're hooked on that. It's impact the way you're thinking, the emotional part of you, the mentally, the spiritual, emotionally. It's impact on it. So when you're on it, as long as you know the signs and symptoms of people abusing addiction, what stages they're on, or you can help them.
Okay.
And refer them with a lot of a treatment that will let them deal with all what they need to be dealt with, okay. Right?
So
and also when addiction people, we look at them, it's not them, the way their attitude is, the behavior, the action, that of addiction, that if you don't understand that, the person that's dealing or the family dealing with it, it's very aggravating. A lot of frustration period that we go through, a lot of hurt, a lot of family are impacted by it.
Yeah.
So those that's in using, don't be afraid to reach out and get help. Enough is enough. We, as parents, grandparents, we maybe not biological related, but we can work as a community. We want to help them. We don't want them to hurt any more than we are hurting. And based on that, people out there, young people, we love you. We treasure you guys' life. You are the next generation of people. Our leaders would be doctors or whoever. Think about that, because you got children, you got families. some were left without it, but big part of our life in our community where a lot of people have lots of loss over since COVID. Like this month, week after week, we're bearing people. I mean, people walking with all these pain.
Yeah.
And we're trying to do the best we can. Hopefully, when you get back after this fire, we're working on the wellness planning of how to assist people.
Yeah.
So the majority, there were 26 trainees of addiction counselor in our region already. We're trying to recruit them.
Yeah.
We're trying to unify a lot of our resource people for our community to work with our people. So that's a big project that we're focusing on right now. Yesterday we had meetings, so we got lots to do.
Yeah.
And hopefully we've been after to have a community, a healing place. Hopefully we can have one.
Yeah, like a treatment center or recovery center kind of a thing.
Yeah, and then it'd be based on traditional cultural way of life too, and our traditional way of doing recovery stuff with people.
Yeah.
Really promoting that, because that's going to save lives. The way we look at it, it's not going to, but it does.
Yeah. Okay. So, you're done? You tired?
Yeah, I'm tired now. My mind's the other way now. I have to go to the other place.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule.
Yeah.
Like, this is insane. Thank you so much. And I would like to say that right now is a very important time that we all stick together and, just be one as people. And thank you again for having this conversation with me. And where can they find you? Edzo,
I'll be
in Mexico.
Everywhere.
All right, thank you.
Well, that's been a month now. I have been home only for that one day, and I've been to communities left and right. So now I'm here back in Yellowknife. So hopefully wrap everything, but hopefully for all, just want to thank a lot of young people that make use of a lot of programs we deliver at the community level. Also all the leaders, the Tlicho leaders and staff that make it everything possible with the last minute evacuations and all the things, the services they provide. It's awesome. We try to, do what we can at our end too, as well as providing support for everyone, and it's not easy. But it's been a rough time faced with the fire and all that, people returning. It doesn't stop here. It's still going to continue when we go back there. So just want to thanks, and I'm so glad people stuck it out this long. It was hard, but I know the leaders, then the staff, Tlicho staff, went through awesome stuff, but they're stuck together, and I just want to thank them. Tlicho.
Yes, I would like to thank all of you too as well. And that concludes the episode. Thank you all for tuning in. Bye.